What is going on, you guys? It's your girl Diana back at you with another YouTube video. Yesterday, episode 135 of the Pokemon Journeys anime, titled Pokemon I'm Glad I Met You, aired in Japan, and let me tell you, people are happily surprised by this episode. This is a very dialogue-heavy episode, and there wasn't too much crazy action that happened, so I am going to be sprinkling in my thoughts as I recap the episode with you guys. But if you're interested in seeing what happened in the latest Pokemon Journeys anime episode, then just keep on watching. And if you're new here, make sure that you subscribe because it helps you girl out, and give this video a thumbs up if you are a Pokemon fan so that we can push it out into the YouTube algorithm so that more Pokemon fans can see it. And if you would like another way to support the channel, please feel free to check out the merch store. There is a link down below in the description that takes you to not only my merch store, but also all of my other socials so you can keep up with what I'm doing on a daily basis. And since the holidays are just around the corner, if you are looking for a gift for a loved one, I have linked copies of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet on my Amazon storefront, which is down below as well. Or you could even buy one for yourself. But without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the latest episode of the Pokemon Journeys anime. We start off the episode back at Professor Oak's lab where he's congratulating Ash on his big victory. The two have a brief conversation about how far Ash has come, and Ash states that he couldn't have done it without his amazing team of Pokemon. Ash's mom then enters the lab and hands him a lunchbox, and very clearly states, "I have a feeling you won't be visiting us again for some time." Basically calming everyone's fears and confirming that Ash will be going to the Paldea region. So this is not the end for our boy Ash. I know that was a big concern throughout the entire Pokemon community that Ash was no longer going to be our protagonist, but his mom basically just confirmed that he will be traveling to a new region, aka Paldea. We then hop over to Go, who's talking to his entire team of Pokemon, telling them all about how he finally met Mew. But it looks like he's got something on his mind. But right before we find out what, we cut over to Chloe, who's talking to her dad about how her, Ash, and Go are supposed to go on a camping trip. But it looks like the boys are late, so Chloe goes off to find them. She ends up stumbling upon Go talking to his team about how he wants to go on his own journey on his own because he feels that this is the only way that he'll be able to become a good enough trainer in order to battle Mew. So he wants to take inspiration from Ash and travel around different regions so that he can get stronger too, which I thought was kind of a cute and touchy moment. He looks up to Ash and he wants to be just like him. But the big bombshell here is that Go wants to go on this journey alone, without Ash, because he thinks that if Ash comes with him, he'll rely on him too much. So this might be the end of Ash and Go. But because Ash and Go are such good friends, Go actually feels really guilty about wanting to go on this journey by himself, and doesn't know how he's actually going to tell Ash to his face. But the three finally make it to the campsite in the middle of the Cantonian forest and start walking around exploring, trying to find some berries for their Pokemon. While they're running into a bunch of different Kanto Pokemon, Go has a really long flashback about how this one particular Abra used to always teleport into Go's apartment when he was younger and home alone. Honestly, in my opinion, they spent a little bit too long on this whole flashback. It was literally like a good 5 minutes of just watching this Abra appear and disappear and Go chasing after it. But I think the point that they were trying to get across is that Go was alone a lot as a kid and the Abra was his only friend, which kind of mirrors the relationship he currently has with Ash, since when Ash met Go, he was a loner that didn't have friends. But after we go through the entire flashback with Go and he talks about how that one Abra led him to meet so many new Pokemon friends, Chloe then asks Ash if he has a Pokemon like that from his past. And Ash is over here like, "I like all of the Pokemon. They're all my friends. I don't have just one." "Okay, Mr. Popular." But as they're walking around, they stumble upon a Poliwag that's close to a bunch of trees with berries on them. The Poliwag tries to knock some of the berries out of the tree using a water gun. However, the berry manages to hit a Spearow right on the head. And we all know what Spearows are like when they get hit by something from the literal first episode of the Pokemon anime. So I thought this was a nice callback to that because they do end up getting chased by the Spearows. Me personally, I would have liked if we had seen something with Ash and Pikachu kind of protecting the rest of the group, since they've come so far since that very first episode where Ash and Pikachu weren't even friends yet and still managed to defeat the Spearow on their own. But instead of that, they end up running towards a lake and there's a Slowpoke using Yawn, and Chloe has her Eevee use Yawn to put the Spearows to sleep. Back at camp later that night, the three continue to reminisce over some memories. Chloe points out that Ash and Pikachu are actually super similar, and Ash says, "Yeah, of course, he's been my #1 pal since day one," and goes on to mention that despite catching and meeting and even releasing a bunch of Pokemon along his journey, Pikachu's been with him the entire time. Which, speaking of releasing Pokemon, I will never get over the Butterfree episode. That was so sad. I also think it's kind of whack that not only did he release his Butterfree, he also tried to trade it away for Eradicate at one point, but I digress. But Go then also talks about how when he met Cinderace as a Scorbunny, he kind of felt the same way, and saw Scorbunny blossom into the Cinderace that it is today. And the two point out that Chloe has also grown a lot with Eevee as well, since when Ash first met Chloe, she didn't even like Pokemon, but because of her bond with Eevee, she not only now has a best friend in Eevee, but they also met a bunch of Eevee trainers along the way and managed to learn a lot about themselves. This is honestly like a very emotionally charged episode, which I love. because I feel like there's also a lot of really subtle nods to us as an audience growing up watching Ash along these adventures and even playing the games. Because Go mentions that sometimes catching Pokemon feels like mere chance, but at the end of the day, there's always a reason for you to meet that Pokemon, and oftentimes it brings others closer to you and introduces you to a whole new world. And that because of that, they're all glad that they met their Pokemon because it brought them all together. And I feel like that kind of speaks true for those that do enjoy the anime and the games as well, that you would have never met if you had not caught that Pokemon. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I just feel like that was kind of a call out to the audience as well, since Pokemon as a franchise has such a huge reach and has brought so many communities together. But after their heartfelt moment, Go then tries once again to tell Ash that he's gonna go on a journey by himself, but he still can't muster up the strength to do it. At this point, he's tried multiple times to tell him. But while Go shies away from actually telling Ash, Ash literally just casually says, hey, by the way, Go, I'm gonna go on another journey with Pikachu. And Go's just over here like, hello? You've decided this without me? Are we not friends? And gets really upset and storms off because he feels betrayed. Which meanwhile, while Ash is over here flabbergasted about why he's mad, Chloe's like, hello? Are you okay? You're like his only friend and you're deciding to leave him without even telling him, and tells him that he was actually trying to muster up the courage to say the same thing to him. And so Ash is like, dang, I should probably, go apologize. So they all run after Go and try to get a hold of him via phone, but of course Go's over here screening their calls and is not answering. So Cinderace is like, let me take matters into my own hands, and snatches that phone right out of his hands and starts sprinting towards the group. And they all end up meeting up at a big glowing tree. But we find out that the tree is actually glowing because of the Metapod that are evolving into Butterfree, which kind of feels like symbolism to me, symbolizing new beginnings for Ash and Go. Since it seems at this point that they both are going to be going their separate ways, since Go wants to go on his own adventure without having to rely on Ash, and Ash is just over here like, yeah, I'm gonna go by myself for no reason just because I'm used to doing that. Ash and Go then hash it out and make up, but then Go's phone starts ringing and he's like, oh no, this is the perfect concoction of weather and location, whatever, for a Lugia to spawn. And so we end off the episode with a Lugia, of course, spawning out of nowhere to start a raid battle, and Ash and Go running after it, trying to see who can catch it first, which was also a very nice callback to the very first time that Ash and Go met. So contrary to popular belief, this is not actually the last episode of the Pokemon Journeys anime, and we will be getting a continuation of the Lugia raid battle in the next episode. But overall, I actually really enjoyed this episode. Even though there wasn't a ton of action, I thought that it was a really heartfelt episode, and it was a nice recap of everything that's occurred over the course of the series, and even over the course of Ash's entire journey. So overall, I would give this episode an 8 out of 10, just because personally I thought it was a nice way of putting a nice little bow on the series. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. But that is going to wrap up this recap and review. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Love you guys. Bye!